Alright, welcome to the RS10 channel. First time you guys get to really hear my voice, but whatever. So we're looking at a little dozer here. It's a project that's been ongoing for some time. 10 years ago I started it. And yeah, now we're finally picking it back up. We got a little bit of a plan of what's to come with this guy, but well, I get the a dozer. It's made out of 1/8 inch plate steel. It's the main body construction. Yeah, we've had a few different ideas of how to power the tracks. That's most of our, or where our, how do I say, force gets put into the ground. We don't, the blade, picking up the blade and putting down the blade, you only need to be able to pick up the body. So any more pressure than that, it's not really doing anything. It's going to be tractive force. That's going to be the main thing that thing will experience. Have a little RS10 crawler, crawled up the wall on a crab crawl and went flipped over, and that was the end of the video. So here is the RS10 as it sits right now. She is quite highly modified from that original video. She's got upgraded servos, faster motors. The SE has been changed many times. Now I have chosen to go with a dual ESC setup. It's a little bit of a mess right now, but if we zoom down in here, you can see we got one ESC. Oh, sorry. Let me look at the camera. What the camera's looking at. You go underneath this mess here. You got one speed controller here, and the other one there. So they basically, this thing can run full throttle, front axle full throttle forwards, rear axle full throttle reverse, and it'll sit there and just burn the tires off the darn thing. A little bit improvement on a drag control or drag brake or whatever, all those rock crawling ESCs. I find this is a far better setup. There is a downside. It's a huge learning curve to get your hands on four-wheel steer and dual motor input. Yeah, but once you get good at it, it's quite a little fun, a little toy to play with. I intended on doing a bunch of I don't know, backyard bashing videos and such, but it never did really, I never got around to it. Didn't really think it was going to be. I've always thought about vlogging this Dozer build. And so I did. I joined a, what was it, RC? No, not RC four-wheel drive, scale 4x4rc.org. Most of what I did was posted on here. I didn't do much of the body builds, but I like when I bent this piece on the tank here, and yes, that was intended to be a tank. We may change, I say we, I may keep it as a hydraulic tank. I may completely remove it and redo the whole, how the ripper is going to attach completely. Also, it's coming off anyhow, because if it does stay, it's getting a double wall, so we can, or I can drill into this plate here, thread it, and I don't have to worry about hydraulic fluid leaking out. Speaking of hydraulic fluid, the hydraulic fluid for the hydraulic system that I bought is actually a it takes coolant, 50-50 mix, standard coolant. Yeah, there's not, we won't touch much on that, because a dozer isn't a dozer until it can move. So yeah, I don't know if we're going to touch base much on the previous modes of transportation, but I will. Well, fine. We'll go with one of the ones here. I am a bit of a Traxxas fan. Lots of Traxxas equipment in this garage. You'll notice it's a big giant mess. As we do more projects in here, hopefully we'll be able to clean it up and make it a little more presentable. So anyhow, speaking of Traxxas, here we have most of a T-Max 2.5. This one has the 2.5R, but it's pretty potent little package with the right gearing and everything. Like, that would propel this dozer no problem. Downside is making a transmission and like being able to differential gear and have, you know, we got to be able to brake one axle and spin the other one. So putting power down through this style of a transmission's not really, how do I say, the easiest way to figure out, easiest thing for me to figure out. I'm sure there's a way, and I don't know, I could come up with a better plan, because I just happen to have two T-Max transmissions, two 2.5Rs. Well, actually no, I have two 2.5s and one 2.5R. This one has a 2.5R because it was running, and I was going to use the other 2.5s to propel the tracks. We don't have a real big target for the output speed. Want it to kind of look like scale. This thing started out on the scale 4x4 scale 4x4 RC forum as a 1/12 scale D11. Well, when we look at this thing, she don't freaking look like a D11, and nor do I think I have the ability to make this thing look like a D11. So we're just going to call it a 1/12 scale high track dozer. Good enough for me. So back to the transmission side of using two nitro engines out of Traxxas. Went to our favorite Canadian store, Princess Auto, and I picked up basically the biggest freaking sprocket I could find and the smallest sprocket I could find. And we ran that through, I ran that through this shaft here. That's what it's supposed to be over. Oh, sorry, camera guy. I'll get used to this maybe if people find this entertaining enough. And yeah, there's no scripting. We're not scripting anything here. So yeah, I may accidentally slip the odd F-bomb here and there. I'll try to keep my language presentable. So anyhow, long story short, I machined this guy on a little lathe so it fit the 5/8 shaft we're using here. Just a 5/8 key shaft. Through these little bearings, key shafts, no big deal. We do have a little bit of concern about the key wearing on some parts, but should be okay with the upgrades that I've done. So anyhow, use our favorite fastener, JB Weld. Yep, little JB Weld smothered on a shaft, pounded her on there, and then I attached this axle shaft from the T-Max there. So I did have a problem with having too much drag in this system. It was overpowering the differential in the T-Max. So out came the diff in the T-Max, and yeah, we did our favorite JB Weld treatment to that. So now she's a posi diff, hooked it back up to here, and yeah, small gear spinning big gear. Good, decent reduction. We may have had to add another reducer off of this guy, but the one test video I have, may edit it in once I figure out how to do that. Yeah, it seemed like this output speed was close enough. Might have been a bit rowdy, but anyhow, there's one problem with going with the nitro engine, and setting them up to idle very nicely without activating the slip clutch, or the flywheel clutch. and getting everything synchronized. You know what? I'm just asking for a big pile of headaches. So I went back to the electric idea, and yeah, I got one of those right here. I don't have the head anymore. I don't know where I put those. Probably threw them out because I got sick of the idea. But I do have some permanent magnet worm gear motors, which would be perfectly ideal for this, except for the worm, or the gear that the worm spun on was plastic. So I didn't see that lasting very long, and I decided to axe using these guys. May not have been the smartest idea, but we'll see. We'll go over and see what I got going on these other motors. We can still come back to these. I did find a couple worm gear window roller motors that actually do spin a. Well, I think it's a sintered metal gear, but either which way, it's still a metal gear. It lasts a little longer. We could probably give it a molly grease treatment to just help it last that much longer. But that's if this next idea, I think it's the fourth. I don't know. Yeah, I had a few other plans before these guys showed up. Anyhow, so let me set you down here for a second, and I'll disassemble the axle here. I know you're not going to get a good view, but you may have seen in the background, do have some camera stands, so we'll be able to set you up so we can see more. May re-edit stuff to make this work a little better. Anyhow, so these motors, they have a left and a right, and really the only difference between the left and the right, they put the red wire on one side and the brown on the other, and then that's all it took to turn these things around. So you can see a nice little shiny part in that motor there.